Hi everyone, this is Karine Morazzo here with EPL Real Estate, and I'm here today with Nicole Comer from Home Gnome. She's an inspector and she owns her own company, and we are here today to give you a little education on siding. When you're looking at a house, what to look for, what a buyer sees and what an inspector sees, so that she can give you some insight on what to look for. And we're going to take a look at it, and Nicole's going to show you what to look for and give you some information on LP siding. And I'm going to turn it over to Nicole.
Watch this.
Thank you so much. So as Karine said, this is a 1990 house, which is probably the biggest clue you can have when you're looking for things like LP siding. So if you are a buyer and you know like a neighborhood or a home was built around that year, basically from mid-80s to mid-90s is the era that we're talking about, you want to look for these clues because there might be LP siding, which is considered to be a defective product if it was built during those years. Or this type of product, which is basically a wood chip composite material, which basically means they use byproducts of wood production and they basically mix it with a bunch of glue and other things and press it together really compactly, really solidly, and hope that it resists water, which this particular product didn't do very well. So some other ways to identify
Sounds like IKEA.
So what we're looking for here is, the biggest clue is what's called, they call it the LP knot. And we'll just point to a couple here, and then maybe we can try to point out the L. I know there's one over here. Where did it go? Yes.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yep. So if you zoom in there, you can kind of make out, if you look really closely,
Right there.
there is kind of an L and a P, and they're a little bit obscured a lot of times because there's a couple layers of paint. But other times, you know, they did try to kind of camouflage it a little. So right here you can see the nail head is driven in too far. So what happens when a nail head is driven in too far, it breaks the surface of the siding and creates an opening so that moisture can then get in that opening. Another thing to look for is at the underside of the siding. This is usually where a lot of the swelling happens. The bottom edge is really a place where you should be looking for any kind of, if it's thicker than what it should be. So if you take a measurement, it should be 1/2 inch or less.
So how does this siding compare, Nicole? Can you see
This
swelling?
This siding actually looks really good. It looks like they did a really good job painting this when it was first installed. And that's kind of key. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to last forever. There was a class action lawsuit for this type of siding. It ended in the early 2000s, so unfortunately if you have this type of siding, you're kind of on your own as far as replacement goes.
But they did, it's not all LP siding, correct? They did make a different product now, which is, it has a different name.
Yeah, so after about 1996, there's another LP siding that looks similar to this, but is not defective. And if you do have defects with that type of siding, it should still be under warranty. So that's kind of the main difference between, you know, the defective stuff and the newer stuff. You know, the age is a big flag, but also, you know, these things like swelling and then the signature LP knot, those are kind of the big clues. But this siding actually looks really good. I don't see much swelling, any swelling at all. They did a really good job painting. Places like seams, those also should be recaulked very regularly,
Right.
Because you've cut that edge and now that's a place where water can then intrude and then cause swelling. Some other things to note about defective siding: this type of LP siding, same years, it's produced in these lap panels like this, but also 4x8 sheets. Those are a little bit harder to identify. They do still have, you know, the same signs like the swelling if it's not maintained very well. Delamination is kind of another thing that kind of goes along with swelling. Once you get really bad swelling, you can start to see the layers kind of come apart. A lot of times it's so bad that there's mold or mushrooms growing in the siding. That's kind of when
So
it's
like
a bit of an
particle board
emergency.
type of thing.
Yeah.
It's like a sponge.
Yeah.
It gets moisture in.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the main thing, you know, if you do have the siding and for some reason maybe, you know, you're not necessarily selling your house, but you can't afford to maybe replace the siding, you know, if it's not damaged, just keep painting it. The one thing I would say too is don't ever side over it. A lot of times people want to put vinyl siding over the top like you did with old wood siding.
Yeah.
That can accelerate the deterioration. So you never want to do that. You know, I always recommend that it be replaced, even if it looks good like this, because it's really only a matter of time.
Interesting.
Wow. Great information, though. I mean, because
Yes.
I didn't know anything about this before I started, selling homes. So it's great information, and thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming out. Is there anything else that you would want to tell us about the siding?
I think that's pretty much it.
So
Pretty,
the top three would be if the era.
I would say the age, so mid 80s to mid 90s, and then the LP knot.
Looking for the LP knot.
Yep.
Yes.
That's kind of the big, that's the main thing, because there's a lot of fibrous siding that's similar to this, but this brand has that very signature knot with the LP in the middle.
So if it has the LP knot, it's definitely LP siding.
Yes.
It's gonna probably go bad. It
At
can
some
be
point.
maintained. And the other thing is to look for what's going to accelerate the deterioration of it would be any extra holes like the nails.
too deep, and
Nailing
the,
defects.
and the joints.
Yeah, and then just if the edges were never painted, a lot of times I see that at roofs, like where a roof meets a sidewall.
Okay.
You know, they don't paint that bottom edge, and then it rains, and rain kind of splashes back up on that bottom edge, and then this stuff just acts like a sponge when it's not sealed.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Nicole. Nicole with Home Gnome Inspector.
Could you spell gnome?
GNOME.
Because I didn't know how.
Home-gnome.com is my website.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.